Ever wondered what a $15,000 automation looks like? Here you go. Pretty cool, right? We built this a couple months back for a client in the agency space, and since then it's been used daily to organize his meetings, warm his leads, qualify calls, and so much more. In this video, I'm breaking down the key frameworks we use to build this out and showing you the behind the scenes to this automation with a live build so you can get an idea of what a $15,000 automation looks like. If you ever want to remove yourself from your agency, automating different aspects of it is one of the best things you can do and will actually allow you to go from a day-to-day worker to a high-value CEO. Since 2023, we've been working with agency owners all over the world to set up scale-proof systems. And automation plays a massive role in allowing your agency to scale without the usual chaos on your operations. If you're new here, buckle in because we don't hold anything back. I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into it.
Alright guys, so this automation I built for a client, I think it was back in November. Now I will give you guys some sort of context. At the moment, we're no longer doing these one-off automation builds unless it's a very specific scenario. And the reason we actually don't do one-off automation builds anymore is firstly because they are quite limiting for the person. Once you start automating one thing in your agency, you have a lot more you want to automate because it kind of opens your mind to different things. So they end up coming back and then we have to build them again, and it just gets really expensive for the person. The second reason is a lot of the time people want to automate things which aren't necessarily useful to the actual business. It's more of a distraction. So let's say we do automate that, we do an amazing job. At the end of the day, it doesn't provide a real ROI, so they're not likely to work with us. Whereas if we wanted to automate the stuff that we know can have a positive impact as part of a program like we're doing now, it's a lot more valuable for the actual agency. So that's just a bit of context about what we are currently doing and why we don't really do one-off automation builds anymore. But this is a good thing because it allows me to record videos like this and really give you a live breakdown on how these work and how you can just copy this basically for your agency. Like I said in the introduction, guys, if you're new to the channel, we don't hold anything back. We literally show you guys everything. My goal here is just to provide you guys with as much value as possible, and I am being quite selfish. I am hoping that one day you won't have time to set up these automations for yourself, or you can want an expert to do it properly along with all the other things we do, and we'll be the first person you come to when that happens. But yeah, until then, let's get straight into how this actually works. So before I go over the live breakdown and building out this automation with you live, step by step, so you can follow it and copy me, we need to do something that's very important. And this is something I talk about in all my YouTube videos. The first thing we need to do before going on to build automation is actually planning. We want to map out everything we want this automation to do before we go out to actually building this automation. Now, if you don't do this, there's a lot of disadvantages, but the main thing is that you have no real sense of clarity. As you're building out this automation, you'll be trying to figure stuff out, which will just make your life so much easier. Building automation isn't that complicated, especially for most of the beginner stuff, but it can get very complicated if you're building automation, trying to figure out the process, figure out all the details. That's when it gets difficult. So just planning it out will make your life a lot easier and will make your automation better, because if you don't do this, chances are you're going to make the automation straight away. It'll work for a week or so, but then you're going to want to touch up, and then you're just going to have to spend more time actually building automation, which you could have just spent planning in the first place to make it better the first time. So yeah, if you're going to do something, do it properly. Before you go out to build an actual automation, plan it out. Now, don't worry guys, I've already done the groundwork for this. This is basically the plan for automation. Now, if you've watched the channel before, you've probably seen parts of this automation in different videos, but this is kind of a complete overview of this meeting automation. It all originates from Calendly. The main problem the client was having, he wanted something that could automatically warm his leads, qualify his leads, and this is basically a solution we offered. Now, as you can see, this kind of splits into different groups: qualified sales calls, unqualified sales calls, follow-up, client calls, and team calls. I'll be explaining every single one of these, but what we're actually going to be building out today is these three things. So we'll focus on the sales side of things, and there's two reasons for that. Firstly, like I said, I will be giving you guys a live build out of this, so I expect this video to be a bit longer than my usual ones. Secondly, this sales side of things is something that applies to all agencies in a relatively similar fashion. However, when it comes to client calls and team calls, that is very dependent on what you guys are doing. So I could do another half an hour just breaking down these automations and how they work. However, it might not necessarily apply to you if you're doing something different when it comes to your team calls or client calls. But when it comes to the sales side of things, this is fairly similar across the industry in the agency space. So you'll be able to get immense value from this. And if you guys want a part two about the client call and team call side of things and the different aspects of the meeting of this whole system, then drop a comment. I'm more than happy to record it for you guys. But I think the most sensible thing to do right now is to focus on the sales side of things, build this out so we don't end up making this video 50 minutes long. I hope that makes sense, guys. Now that that's covered, let's talk about this whole system. or automation, I should say. So it's quite simple. Whenever this client gets a meeting, it basically qualifies it based on a meeting name into different groups. We have qualified sales calls, unqualified sales calls, follow-up or existing client calls or team calls. We're mainly going to be focusing on this. A qualified sales call is basically a sales call that meets a specific criteria. For this example, this can be anything such as questions that you ask in your booking form, such as how much are you making a month? Are you an agency or not? Are you looking to build out different things? If they are qualified, they'll go down this path. And if they are unqualified, they'll go down this path. This path is very simple. We want to warm up the leads, give them some free value, but also provide some information for our sales team. So firstly, we send them a free value. This is basically a confirmation email that we send some sort of resource they can check out before the sales call. We want to warm them up. So if you have an automated lead magnet, send it here. It's a perfect time. Then we send the website and everything over to ChatGPT so it can do some research on its own and send it over to a Slack message. We also add the lead to a CRM, create a task for a sales team to actually prepare for calls. One thing that I don't see a lot of salespeople doing is taking even 20 minutes before the call to prepare, learn about the company. It's extremely valuable and something that Alex Mosey himself said you should be doing. So whenever we work with someone, we encourage them to add a little 20 minutes before a call for their sales team to really understand the company and how they can specifically help them. After that's done, we add the meeting in our meeting database, which I've done a whole video on if you haven't already checked it out. We create a delay using some custom code, which basically figures out the date of the call, calculates 12 hours before that, and then calculates the delay it'll take. And then we send another free value to the client 12 hours before the call, just to make sure they show up. So that's the qualified path we're going to build on today. The unqualified path is, once again, if the answers to some of the questions will mean that the lead is unqualified, they'll go down this path. Here, we send a webhook with a bit of custom coding, which I've got for you guys. This will automatically cancel the meeting and then send an email to the client where you can share some resources and can apologize, let them know they're not qualified specifically for your offer. And the last one we're going to be focusing on this video is a follow-up call, existing client call. Now, what happens a lot with sales, you have one call, but you might want to book a call in the future, either a couple months down the line, or to go over the question a week down the line, let's say. You don't want these leads to be added to the CRM again, get the same 2 emails. In my opinion, personally, is not very nice. So we like to split this up. If it's someone that is already existing in the CRM as someone who's had a call before, instead of them going through this flow and getting the same email twice, they won't get an email. We just send a Slack message to the team, create a task for the sales team, and just add a meeting in a database. So yeah, guys, that's what we're going to be building out today. It does look a bit complicated, and at some points it will get complicated, but don't worry, I'm here to talk you through every single step so you can just copy me. Like I said, if you want a part 2 featuring the client calls and team calls, drop a comment and I can record it for you guys. Now, I said this in my last video, but my voice is a bit messed up right now. I have a bit of a cold. So if at any point my voice sounds a bit weird, just ignore it. I'm trying my best right now to get this recorded for you guys. Alright, cool. So let's get straight into it. Now, we're going to be using Zapier for this. Now, whether you use Zapier or Make, it doesn't really matter because they're practically the same thing. You can do a lot more with Make. However, Zapier is a bit more beginner friendly, which is why we usually use it for our tutorials. Both of them are free trials, so sign up to both, test them out, and find your favorite one. All right, cool. So you're going to go into Zapier and then create a new automation. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're using Zapier or Make. If you use a Make right now, you can still follow along. You can apply the same frameworks I'm using here to your specific account. As always, any automation always starts with a trigger. And for this example, the trigger is just going to be a new meeting. Now, we're going to use Calendly for this. You can use any booking software like Go High Level, for example. It doesn't matter at all. You can just copy the exact same framework. So we're going to search for Calendly here. And once we found Calendly for event, you want to put invitee created. Link your account. Press continue again. And that's it. Test it and find one of your calls, which we got one right here. Obviously, you can't see this because it's a bit sensitive information, so we're going to cover it up. So guys, the way this is going to work, every single time a call comes in from Calendly, it already has this name filtered within the title. That will allow us to filter it based on the different calls and different things like the questions and split it each within its individual groups. Now, before we can do that, I do want to do one more thing, and it will allow us to filter it between these 2 things right here. So before we go into splitting it in different paths, I just want to look for that email within my CRM. For this example, I'm going to use SmartSuite. Once again, that doesn't matter. Just find your specific CRM. And for records, we're going to find a record in SmartSuite. So as you guys can see, this is the backend for one of the videos I did for a case study of that 7-figure operating system. We got some example emails here. We're basically looking for this email within our CRM just to make sure it doesn't already exist. If it already exists within our CRM, then we're going to go down this path. If it doesn't, we're going to go down this path to actually add it to our CRM. The reason we do this before we put filters is because we can set up different filters depending on the output we get from the specific step. So we're going to go over to Smart Suite. We found our solution, we found our table, and the search by field is going to be email. Just scroll down and find email. Now for search value, we're going to scroll down and find the invited email. Now, important thing here, we want to change this to true or yes, because if we don't find anything, it doesn't mean this automation has failed. All it means is that we don't already have that client in our CRM. If you don't put this as automation will not work, because every single time it comes here and it doesn't find the lead in CRM, it will stop the automation and fail it. So make sure you take this as yes. If you've noticed, this is an email that already exists within a CRM. So if we just quickly test this, it should come back as true. Find the actual record, which it did, for quantum solutions, which once again is just an example. But let's say we change this to something else. Just as an example, guys, to show you what it would look like if it didn't already exist. Literally just a random set of numbers. And we test this again. We want to see that the output when it has nothing. That's it. It just says no data available because obviously there was no record. Now that we've done this setup, it's time to actually configure the different paths. So all we're going to do for this is add another step. We're going to search for path, which actually Zapier just made free. I didn't even know that. Wow. So I guess they won't bill you for those specific tasks. So these are different paths, which are basically filters for where the data will pass through. So let's say it has certain requirements, then instead of going down this path, it will go down this path. Exactly how we outlined here, guys. In order for the data to go through here, the first thing we have to filter is it being a sales call. So if we go back to the automation, we go to path rules, we choose the field of the actual name of the event, which is event type name, and all my sales calls straight from Canonly contain demonstration call. So when I filter this, I can put contain and I can put demonstration because all of my sales calls contain the word demonstration. This means that if anyone else books a call on my Canonly that is not a sales call, it would not go down this path. But that's not the only thing we want here. We want to also qualify it to make sure everyone that we hop on a call with is actually qualified for our offer. So within our Canonly thing, if you check it out, we have a couple questions. One of the questions we have is, are you looking to implement custom AI-powered solutions or automations in your business? Quite clearly, we have yes and no, don't book this call. Now, we do have a lot of other qualifying questions, but just for this example, we're going to stick to this one. We're going to put it as if they don't respond to yes, that means they're not qualified. So we need to make sure that this question is answered is yes. So we head over back to Zapier and we go under and filter. Go over here. And now we're going to look for that specific question 4. So we want to look for the response to question 4, which is right here. We want to make sure that contains yes. Because if it doesn't contain yes, then it means they're not qualified, then we'll go down the different paths that will cancel the call. Now this path we're creating is only for leads that don't already exist within our CRM. So let's filter it for that. If you go back over here, we're going to add another and filter, and we're going to use this step and we'll put ID does not exist. Because if the lead does not already exist on our database, they won't have a record ID. Now, if we test this with this specific lead, which is already in our database, and we rerun this, it will find something and there will be ID. So if you go back here and retest this again, it will not be qualified solely because that lead already exists, so it has an ID, so it will not go down this path. Hope that makes sense, guys. Before we go on to create these different steps for all the different automations, let's finish setting up the filters for all the different actions, and we only have 2 more: unqualified sales calls and existing client calls. This is fairly simple. To make this easier, I'm just going to copy this and duplicate it here, and we're just going to change it there instead. So this is only for unqualified calls. So we don't care whether the ID exists or not. The main thing we're looking at is that answer one of the qualifying questions here is no. It doesn't matter if it's no or if it's a certain number, for example. What we're going to change this to is does not contain yes, or you can also put contains no. It doesn't matter. If we test this now, you see it will not go down this path because they answer yes to that question. However, if they answer no, which meant they're unqualified specifically for the sales call, then they'll go down this path and automatically cancel the meeting. And the last we want to do is for existing client calls. Now, once again, to make this easier, I'm simply going to duplicate this here rather than doing it from scratch. Now, the only thing we're going to change here, we're going to put the ID to exists. Continue. And if we test it, this will go down this path because that lead already exists within our record database. So now that we set up all the filters, I hope that's giving you an idea. The main thing we're filtering is the name of the actual event or the call, any qualifying questions, and then in this specific example for the sales side of things, we're checking that the record doesn't already exist on our CRM to avoid having two records and email them twice to the same exact email. Now that that's done, for the fun part, which is actually creating these different steps in automation. So the first thing we want to do here is send some free value. That's fairly simple. We're going to go over here, go to Gmail or your email provider. Doesn't really matter. And for event, we're going to scroll all the way down to send email and then head over to action once you've connected your account. Now, two, you need to enter the email that they booked in a call with, which will just be the invitee email. From, you're going to select your account. From name, usually I just put Leo Fluxomate. You can just put your full name, doesn't really matter, even your company name. Subject can be something like booking confirmation. Free value. I'm not going to go over the copy for this specific email. I'm just giving you guys an example. Now, when I send emails using any sort of automation, I don't like doing it plain. I always stick to HTML. And the only reason I do that is because sometimes the format can be a bit messed up plain and it doesn't look nice. So I always stick to HTML when I'm doing this. Usually what I do, I type up the email here in normal text and then I head over to ChatGPT and ask it to convert to HTML for me. So just an example here, once again, please do not copy this. You should write your own emails, but we head over to ChatGPT and all we'll say here is convert this to HTML. Say its own thing. One thing I know about ChatGPT recently has been talking so much, but what you wanted anyways. And literally all we're going to do is copy this code, go back to Zapier, delete this and just copy and paste it. Signature, you can add your email signature. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'll show you in a test of what this actually looks like. And as you can see, it came out very simply. Here's some revalued link, speaks to you with a logo, and then Leo Fluxomate as the name, the subjects as well. Now you can also do other things such as incorporating their name within the subject or the actual body. If you wanted to do that in whichever way you wanted to, all you have to do is find the specific records. For example, here, the questions is company name. You can put it there. So you can put the company name in a subject so they're more likely to open it. So that's the free value email one. Once again, make sure you change the actual copy of this to add your free value. And now we're going to move on to the next step, which is doing some company research. Now, this is very, very cool. I love to do this because it saves some time. Like I said, for all of our sales calls, we like to prepare and we do the exact same thing with all of our partners, agencies. And this just makes it a bit more easier. So all we're going to do is over here, search for ChatGPT. And then for event, we're going to put conversation. Now, if you're doing this properly, I'd recommend going setting up on a system first and then doing conversation with the assistant. But just to keep it as simple as possible for this example, we're going to go conversation, connect your account. If you don't know how to do this, I have a whole video showing you how you can connect ChatGPT to Zapier specifically. So check that out. We're just going to continue. Now for the user message, we're just going to give it all the information from the questions and ask it to summarize it for us in a couple of sentences. Once again, I'm not going to go into this prompt specifically. Don't copy this. You can improve it a lot. To give you an idea of what this could look like, all I'm asking is to check out the website and summarize what they do for me. So we plug the website in straight from Calendly. Now, if you're doing this properly, I would include all the different questions they responded, such as their monthly revenue, stuff like that. But if you go to the test, you can see it's basically generated a summary of my own website, I guess, which will make the research a bit easier for your team. So we're going to label this now, and that's that step completed. The next thing we want to do is send a Slack message to the team with that information we just found. To do that, all we're going to do is add another step. And here we're going to search for Slack. Now, we do have a book calls channel, which makes it a bit easier. I recommend setting up as well. But all we're going to do is scroll down here to send channel message. Obviously, connect your Slack account. I want to pick a channel that you have sales calls on. Now, just for this, I'm going to use a testing account, which you use for YouTube stuff. And here we're going to have a simple message, such as new sales call booked with, and I want to insert the company name right there. Then want to include the summary we just created in the previous step using ChatGPT within that message to give them some context. So just like that, super simple. When I send this as a bot, yes, you can choose your name and icon. For example, you can put sales call bot and then change that. I'm not 100% sure that'll work, but I see, and I usually don't like to include the link to the Zack just to keep it as clean as possible. And if we test this out to the testing channel, as you can see, guys, you guys can see this. If not, I'll take a screenshot, but you can see the message come in from the sales call bot. Now the emoji didn't work right. If you want to do it properly, you have to use Slack format of emojis. It's money bag without the underscore to get emojis like this, basically. Another thing I'll definitely include is the actual time of the call. Let's move over to the next step, which is actually adding them to your CRM. Now, most CRMs work as a database, so all we're going to do is add it to the database. Like I said, for this example, we're going to use SmartSuite. It doesn't really matter what you're doing though. All you have to do is just add that information such as the email and the company name within your CRM. So for here, we're going to create a record, new, connect your account again, find your specific table for the CRM, I guess. Just filling all the requirements. So company name will come straight from the questions, which was here. Description, we can leave that. End date, we can leave that. Email, very important, will come straight from Canally from the invitee email. And for lead source, you can also add that in from the questions on Canally, but I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible. All we're gonna do here is continue. We're gonna test this, and if you head to the CRM, we'll see two of these now because they already existed in the first place. But we'll see it's been already added right here at the bottom. Testing with that email. Now, guys, if you're doing this properly, you would also set the sell stage when you're doing it. So, for example, if you go all the way down here to sell stage, we'd put that as demo call booked. And if we do that again, you see within our CRM, it's automatically created a record where the sales stage is demo call booked. This makes it a lot easier when you're tracking your leads for the future, especially if you have a good sales pipeline set up. And that's another thing you can enter is that information we added in from ChatGPT. So if you have a section like company information, you can just copy and paste that here, and that will automatically be added to your CRM so you can keep a track of that. Like I said, guys, it doesn't matter if you're using SmartSuite, Notion, ClickUp, Airtable, whatever you want to use. You can apply the exact same frameworks to what I just showed you to anything you're currently doing. So now that we've done these 4 steps, I hope you're still following me. It might get a bit more complicated from here, but I am trying to keep this as simple as I possibly can to make sure you understand it fully. The next thing we want to do is create a task for the sales team. We should prepare for the call. Like I said, for all of our calls and all our partners agencies, we encourage the sales team to take about 10 or 15 minutes before a call to really learn about the company so they can understand how they can really help them. For this, once again, we're going to use SmartSuite, and we're also going to create a record within our task database this time. Now, this time, instead of doing the client database, we're going to be focused on the task database. That's basically it. Now we have full information. For the task name, we're going to put prepare for sales call. Description, I'm going to leave it. Status, I want to put that as backlog. And then for the due date, you want to enter the time that the actual call is being taken place. So if we go over here, we enter the time right there. I'm going to leave that. Client, you could link this, but just keep it as simple as possible. We're going to leave it for now. But if you're doing this properly, you'd link the client to the meeting and the meeting to the client. The task type, you're going to put, you have a couple of options. You put other, is not a client task. And we're going to enter the information from ChatGPT within the script section. It will make sense in a second why I'm doing this. And then for assigned team member, you want to assign the person that'll be responsible for taking that call. So for now, we're just going to leave this empty. Now I'm going to press test. And if you go back over to our database or even our front end, I'll show you that, guys, instead. So I'm currently a manager, so I can see all the different tasks that we may have. But if you go over to backlog, you can see we have this task, which is prepare for sales call. And if you open the script section, we can see all the information we got before from ChatGPT. If you're doing this properly, you'd assign it to someone so they can actually view it. So now that we create a task for the sales team, we actually want to also create a meeting in the database, and this is basically the same exact thing here. I'm just going to fast forward through this because it's basically the exact same thing as these two. I don't want to bore you guys to death. So that's all done now. I've added the actual meeting within our meeting database, and if we head over back as an admin to the meeting view, we can see the demonstration code testing for that specific date with a specific time, and I've also added a link to that task we created in an earlier step. So if you open this up, you can see the same exact task with the relevant meeting attached right there. So now that we've done that, we want to actually create a delay. Now, this delay is a bit special. It's not just a normal delay. We want to send this secondary email out 12 hours before the call. And obviously that delay will change depending on what time it is. So what we're going to do over here, head over to delay. Before that, we're going to add some custom code. And all the custom code does, you can literally just copy and paste it. It takes the current date, figures out what the time will be 12 hours before our call, and works out the difference between the current date and 12 hours before the call to create that delay, so we can enter it in the step we just created. So for this, what we're going to do is choose code by Zapier. That at least will provide you everything. We want to run some Python. So like I said, guys, I know this looks complicated. Once we've inputted these things right here, all we're going to do, you can just copy and paste this code. And like I said, all it does is very simply, it takes the current time, the event time, calculates 12 hours before the event time, and then calculates the difference between 12 hours before the event time and the current time. A step I forgot to mention previously,
is you need to format the time. For this, all we're going to use is formatted by Zapier, which is free once again. For the actual operation, you're going to put format, then you're going to enter this format option. It's important that you put it specifically in this way because that's how the code reads it. And for the input, you're going to put the scheduled event time, and that's literally it. Then we'll automatically feed that within the code. And as you can see, for this particular event, if you run it right now, 12 hours before the event will be in 96 hours, which makes sense. Then we're going to go to the delays by Zapier. We're going to put delay 4, continue. And here we're going to enter the value we just calculated using the code, which is the result. And then for the units, it's going to be in hours. Simple as that. So guys, the next thing we want to do once our delay is completed is just send some more free value. Now, once again, work on your own copy. That's not the purpose of this. So just to make it easier, we're going to copy this automation, which is the first free value. We're going to duplicate it by paste below. We're going to change the title of this to free value 2, just like that. And obviously change this email. Here you can put some YouTube videos, some testimonials. Once again, the whole point is to warm the lead a bit more. That is now the first kind of flow we've created for this section right here. Now, if you remember correctly, when we set up this path, it was specifically for leads who are 1, having a demonstration call, which is basically a sales call, 2, are qualified based on the questions we asked them, and 3, do not already exist in the CRM. Next path we're going to create is for leads that are unqualified. Now, for unqualified leads, the only thing we want to do is cancel the meeting and then send them an email explaining why we actually canceled the meeting with some free resources. Now, you don't have to do this. If you're not having that many sales calls, I recommend just taking as much as you can. But if you're at the point where you need to start qualifying your leads just because you're starting to see your calendar getting booked up and you want to leave those spaces for potential clients, then this is the best way to do it. So guys, all we're going to do here is send a webhook over to API and the email. Before we send that webhook, we do have to format some of the text. So we're going to go over here and we're going to choose format, which is free once again. I think it's a new thing that Zapier introduced. And here we're going to choose text. And for the actual action, we're going to put split text. So scroll down the split text right here. For the input, we're going to choose the invitee created in Calendly and scroll until you find the scheduled event URL, which is right here. Now, all we're going to do is add a separator, which is this case in just a dash. And for segment index, all we're going to choose is all and as separate fields. That's pretty much it. And we're going to test this step and you'll see we'll get each of the slashes depend. The main thing we're looking for is output 5, which is this code right here. And once again, we're going to run another code within the automation. So add another step, search for code. And this is once again Python. I press continue. All right. And this time, all we're going to input is the event ID we just got. So we're going to put event underscore ID. And then we're going to search for that fifth output, which is just the event ID for the actual event that was scheduled. Now, once again, guys, if you don't know anything about code, don't worry. You can just copy and paste my code. The only thing you want to change is your specific API key from Calendly. Now, you can't see mine because it's covered, obviously, for security reasons. All you need to replace is this section right here with your Calendly API key that you get straight from Calendly. The rest of it, you can just copy. So I'll give you another preview here and the rest of the code here. Once again, all you need to change is the bit that I've hidden from you guys to your own API key for this to work and for it to cancel the meeting. Now, I'm not actually going to test this because if I do, it'll cancel the meeting and I don't want that just yet. So I'm just going to press continue and I'm going to skip the test for this one. Now, what we're going to do is send another email. So I've already got the email task here. So I'm just going to paste below. And this I'm going to call cancellation email. Once again, guys, I recommend putting everything in HTML. So type up a nice email basically explaining why they were cancelled, specifically what caused them not to be qualified, and then give them as much free value as you possibly can. So for me, I would usually put some long form content, so some of my YouTube videos with links to them, a lead magnet, even a gift if you wanted to. Just because they're not your qualified lead right now doesn't mean in the future they won't be. So you do want to start building that relationship as early as you can. Now, optionally, you could add these unqualified leads to your CRM and follow up with them later. That's definitely an option, but at the moment, it's not completely necessary. Like I said with the previous code we ran, I know it seems a bit complicated, but I've laid out everything for you. All you have to do is copy this without doing any work, and it'll work for you guys. And if you do have any problems or anything changes, you can just copy and paste that code in ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to you, or ask it to fix any of your issues. It's amazing at doing that. All right, guys. So we've created a path for the qualified sales calls. We've created a path for unqualified sales calls. The only thing we need to do is create a path
or sales calls with clients that already exist within a CRM for that specific stage. We've already created path rules, which in this case is that it's true that it's a demonstration call, it's true that the lead is qualified, and it's true that the ID already exists within our CRM. So here, as we've outlined, all we're going to do is send a Slack message to the team, create a task for sales, and then create a meeting in the database. So if I was doing this, I would just copy and paste it from what I set up before. But because I want to show you guys a tutorial on how you can do this yourself. And I want to really explain how it works. I'll just do it manually. So for the first action, we're going to look for Slack. For the event, it's going to be send channel message. Here, you would choose some sort of call channel. I'm just going to use our testing channel. The message can be similar to the previous one. New demonstration call booked with, and I want to insert the company name straight from Calendly. Super simple, guys. Obviously, you can send that as a bot, clean it up. It's very simple. And if we test a step, I'll automatically go to our Slack channel within a testing version right there. Now, the next thing we did was create a task for salespeople. So here, we're just going to go over to the back end of our operating system. In this example, it's Smart Suite. Once again, it doesn't matter what you're using, you can apply the same frameworks. What we're doing here is creating a record within our task database. So for the table, we're going to choose the task database. Task name is going to be prepared for a sales call. And then we're going to assign different things like the due date, which in this example will just be the time of the call. We insert it straight from there. Priority, the specific project, any related resources, the client, which we can actually link straight from that first step when we find them. Because remember, this automation flow is for clients that already exist in the CRM, the task type, and then the assigned team member if you have a specific person that deals with this on a day-to-day. So for this one, we're going to leave that blank. And if we test this and we go over to our task database now, if I go over to all tasks, you can see we have there prepared for a sales call, which is at the time of the sales call. And you can add that information here and assign it to specific people. Very, very cool. The last thing we want to do is create the meeting in the database just so we can track it. And for that, all I'm going to do is duplicate this. Instead of it updating the task database, I'm going to make it update the meeting database, which if you've watched my meeting mastery video will make a lot more sense. We'll go over here. So instead of task, we're going to go to meeting. For the title, we can put demonstration call and then a company name straight from Calendly once again. Now in the date, we're going to get that straight from Calendly, so it's automatically updated. And then lastly, the duration and the meeting type, which we'll get once again straight from Calendly. So now guys, if we go back to our internal front end and we go to all meetings, you can see I've done this before for the previous step, but we can open this up and we can see all the information. So it's 45 minutes. This is the date of the call, participants, and the assigned task we just created earlier. Super easy, guys, right? This itself is like a template. You can add a lot more stuff here. For example, I believe when we built it out specifically for the person I was talking about, we also added a lead to his newsletter. That kind of started its own individual sequence over a much longer period if they were unqualified. There's a lot of different paths that the lead could take, basically, depending on the result of the actual sales call. But this is a great place to start. Like I said, I wanted to give you a really, really in-depth guide with this live build out of what a $1,500 automation actually looks like. Like I said at the start of the video, we really did move away from these one-off automation builds and we do them very rarely now just because they're not as extremely valuable for a customer. And using our agency accelerator program, we do what we know will actually provide real results for you guys, such as this internal platform that we build out, the different KPI stuff we work on. It's really completely different than just having a single automation build, which may or may not provide some sort of result. But if you're looking for something very specific, least we can do is point you in the right direction. If you were to do this properly, you would also expand this to different client calls and team calls, part of the automation. When you build out for this person specifically, every single time they had a client call, it will automatically share a recording with the client and update it within their internal platform or client portals. And the same goes with team calls. It automatically allocate the calls to different team members depending on the type of call, so they can review it in their sales stage and have any follow-up tasks or anything like that. It was kind of complicated to build out. It took a while, but once we got it right, like I said in the introduction, he uses this every single day, and it's been extremely powerful for him to actually have something like this in his agency. That's it from me, guys. This has been a longer video than usual just because we're really breaking everything down. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe to get more videos like this. We have this amazing resource in the comments, which is completely free. All you have to do is check out the first link in the description, fill out this short form, which takes about 5 minutes, And from that, you'll get a couple different things. Firstly, you'll get access to this 20 plus page Google document breaking down exactly how you can set up a scale proof agency. Secondly, you'll get your onboarding process completely optimized, specifically based on your current situation. We'll also optimize your client journey and provide you with 5 different examples of automations that can benefit your agency depending on your pain points, and a step-by-step guide on how you can actually set up each one individually. This is an insanely valuable resource. It's what we like to call a doc magnet, and it's something we build up for our clients as well to really break down our offer and show you how it works within your agency. And if you want to save $100 a month for this scalable system that allows you to take on more clients without ruining your service delivery or profit margins, you can check out the second link in the description to get access to a 10-minute video breaking down exactly what we do to set up a scale-proof agency for our partners. We had a lot of people on Instagram asking us what we actually sell. So we put together this free training outlining for everyone. Now, I will say this is not for everyone. So if you're not at a stage where you need to have someone take care of your operations, then I would not recommend applying, as you won't get the most value from this. If this is not you, don't worry. Please the most of these videos will release all these free resources because this is insanely valuable, and I haven't seen anyone else on YouTube give away this much value for free in this industry. It's been a pleasure recording this video. Like I said, it has been one of the longer ones, and I apologize for my voice a bit messed up right now. I do have a bit of a cold. If you have any questions about anything I said, any part of automation, the frameworks, the build out, and literally anything, please drop a comment. One of the advantages that you guys have right now is that we're still a relatively small channel. So if you drop a comment, we're 100% going to see it and reply with an in-depth response. So if I didn't explain anything well, or you need some clarification on anything, drop a comment. I'll be there to actually help you guys out. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.